I don't know if my microphone was on. So, yeah. What I said was Kendrick Bourne had 24.2 PPR points without making it into the end zone, but miss me with your victory laps. Let's get unhinged. Welcome to another edition of Unhinged. Sorry that it's been sparse. Sorry that it's been inconsistent. That's what happens. So I do have a bevy of co-hosts. Couldn't make it today. I couldn't make it last week. You know, shit is the way that it is. However, since I'm here, let's talk about some football stuff. I want to start off by talking about Kendrick Bourne because I was going through waivers and all that stuff throughout the week, and as I'm doing that each day, I'm getting a new injury report from the San Francisco 49ers, who need to fire and completely replace their training staff because they can't fucking keep anybody healthy. And so as I'm going through, like, Juwan Jennings goes down. We know Brandon Ayuk is out. We know that George Kittle's out. Juwan Jennings goes down. Ricky Pearsall goes down. So I'm kind of peppering my lineups across the board with Jake Tungus, California Golden Bear legend, Jake Tungus, and Kendrick Bourne. I hesitated on Demarcus Robinson, didn't really go after any. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't fucking take Kendrick Bourne's 24-point total from last night and roll around on Twitter talking about how great I am because I went out and got Kendrick Bourne. Number one, it's a Thursday night game. There's not a lot of, I don't know. Thursday night games don't hit a lot of start and sits just because we do starts and sits on Thursday. And on Monday, when we recorded our waiver wire show, Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings were still going to play. But I woke up this morning to a whole bunch of takes on Twitter and Blue Sky that were talking about how great that person was because they said, put Kendrick Bourne in your lineup. Well, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? You got a backup quarterback in Mac Jones who has been playing with the second team for most of the last 6 months, of which Kendrick Bourne is a part. No Juwan Jennings, no Ricky Pearsall, no George Kittle, no primary receiver. So who is Mac Jones going to throw to? He's going to hammer Christian McCaffrey. He's going to hammer Jake Tungus, and he's going to hammer Kendrick Bourne. You're not a genius for sussing that out. That's not hardcore analysis. That's simply process of elimination, and you don't need to put that forward to anybody to make yourself look better. It just doesn't need to happen. We all play fantasy football. Some of us dig a little bit deeper than others, but even if you have a peripheral knowledge of what's going on, if you have a couple of 49ers on your roster and they're both out, you are going to waiver wire to get their replacement. That's just what you're going to do. And in this Kyle Shanahan offense where Mac Jones can go, or as I like to call him, McGillicuddy Aloysius Jones, can go out there and throw for 340 yards, it just makes sense that anybody who's a target in that offense can cook, especially when it's on a Thursday night game, which are stupid anyway. So, don't even come in with your, I said to start Kendrick Bourne, because most of us are doing it out of necessity anyway, because of the injury-ocalypse, Injurymageddon, which is teaser, one of the reasons football is stupid. All right, it's time for the hot takes blitz. All right, so digging around on Twitter, came across this account. Name is Jackson McIntyre. He's at 2, the number 2, high HIGH coverage. And somebody tried to call him out, not fantasy receipts, but somebody tried to call him out. And his first tweet, Fantasy X has been overrating how good Egbuka looks. He's a good player and entered the league ready to roll. This often results in overhyped career trajectories as people often view these as linear. I would absolutely sell him in Dynasty if the value is there. Nice little caveat at the end, if the value is there. Way to take a stand. My top 10 wide receivers is another tweet from April. My top 10 wide receivers with around 2 weeks until the draft. Number 1, Tetaroa McMillan. Number 2, Trey Harris. Number 3, Luther Burden. Number 4, Jaden Higgins. Number 5, Matthew Golden. Number 6, Emeka Egbuka. Number 7, Jalen Royals. Number 8, Kyle Williams. Number 9, Jalen Knoll. Number 10, Jack Besh. I'm not going to quibble on the Tetaroa McMillan. He's been the number 1 for a while. He has Trey Harris as number 2. If you want to go back and you look at yards per route run and the kinds of things that Trey Harris did, I don't have a problem with ranking him as the number 2. Luther Burden as the number 3. I mean, this 2 through 6, Harris, Burden, Higgins, Golden, Egbuka, they've been kind of movable pieces. They've kind of, shuffled around throughout the whole pre-draft process into the preseason and all that stuff. It wasn't until the rubber hit the road and we started to see what the actual usage rates were going to be that we kind of got clarity on this wide receiver class. And one of those things that people are trying to say is that if you watch the tape, Egbuka doesn't get open. All right. So this guy is trying to say stuff, and he tweets in May, Trey Harris over Egbuka in Dynasty, and it isn't even close. I am by no means comparing quality. I'm not actually that high on Egbuka. I just think the fit is great. So there you go. He's waffling back and forth. Waffling back and forth. Let's dig in a little bit, shall we? Through 4 games, Trey Harris, who entered the league, by the way, as an old 23-year-old. He had a snap percentage of 8% in game 1 and got a target. He had 31% snap share in week 2 against the Raiders and had 3 targets, 29% snap share against Denver, 1 target, 19% snap share, 1 target, no catch with against the Giants. Okay, that's fine. The man has 6 targets on the season and 3 catches. Let's look at Egbuka real quick. Because if you were listening to this guy, what's his name again? Jackson McIntyre, and you went with Trey Harris over Egbuka, by all means, which I make some statements that kind of seem unhinged like that. Like Jackson Dart is the quarterback 1 of the rookie class, but, I'm not an idiot. And you can listen to me. Let's look at Egbuka. 93% snap share, 93% snap share, 64% snap share, 89% snap share, 6 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets, 23 fantasy points, 13 fantasy points, 14 fantasy points, 20 fantasy points. Emeka Egbuka has, I do quick math, 43 and 26 is 67. Emeka Egbuka is a 67-point wide receiver after 4 weeks in the NFL. Trey Harris has a combined 7.5 points. Oh, but I said in Dynasty. Okay, yeah, but you were still wrong. It doesn't take away from the fact that you were wrong. Emeka Egbuka may not look like he's separating on film, but he's a good wide receiver. We saw him at Ohio State. Film at Ohio State isn't all of a sudden you throw it out because he's in Tampa, and all of a sudden he finds himself in a cherry situation. He's got Baker Mayfield, who's a chucker. Mike Evans goes down. Chris Godwin started the year not playing. Emeka Egbuka had the perfect opportunity, and we saw that coming, and we told you, go get Emeka Egbuka. Fade Trey Harris. And what's happened to Trey Harris? Guess what? Quentin Johnson is the number 1 wide receiver on the Los Angeles Chargers, and somebody told you that was going to happen. Keenan Allen, who I completely missed on, is number 2. Ladd McConkey, who I figured would have it over Keenan Allen at this point, doesn't. But that just means perfect buy low opportunity for Ladd McConkey. His owners are kind of gun shy. There's some people out there. There's some wide receivers out there that you can look at and go, maybe this owner is getting a little trigger happy if you want to shoot him a low ball offer and make him think that he's moving off of somebody who's a bust, especially in redraft. If you're in a redraft league, go out and get Ladd McConkey, go out and get Jamar Chase, go out and get some of these guys who are outside of the top 12, 15. All right. As far as the show sheet is concerned, where'd it go? Where'd it go? There it is. Let's go to Week 5 preview. Okay, so it's time for bold predictions. I'm digging around the old internets today and came across a really, really fantastic article from Fantasy Points. This one is written by Nick Spinola. You should be following him. And he's talking about DFS plays, talking about team defenses and the team coverage rates through week 4. So he starts digging into the pass rush metrics, the pass catchers, a lot of good data. He gets into the Las Vegas and Indianapolis game. Now, if you watch the Dynasty Pulse, which should be coming out on Undroppables tomorrow or today, I think it was on FSA and today. It could be on Undroppables tomorrow. I make a point, and I did it in the fantasy forecast, if you watch that too. Colton Miller going down with a high ankle sprain and a fracture is absolute devastation and chaos for the Raiders. If you haven't watched the show before, look behind me. I'm a Raiders fan. I followed the Raiders a little bit closely than the average person. Colton Miller is a Pro Bowl left tackle. Geno Smith has been throwing interceptions at a very high rate. He has 7 on the year to lead the NFL. And if he's not protected on his blind side, that's going to spell doom. The Raiders were 32nd, last I checked, in yards before contact in the run game, which means that they're not getting push from their offensive line in the run game. Ashton Genty doesn't have a whole lot of room to run. We saw against the Bears, that's not necessarily going to matter with Genty. He's going to be able to force missed tackles and things like that. The Raiders made two draft picks on the offensive line. I want to say they were 3rd rounders. One of them is Caleb Rogers, and the other one is Charles Grant. Charles Grant is listed on the depth chart as a backup left tackle. So instead of starting the rookie who's been in camp, he's been in the system, he's been with the team running their drills and handling their offense and everything. Instead of going with him, Pete Carroll went out and signed Stone Forsythe from a former Seattle Seahawk. The problem with that is Stone Forsythe in 2024 was ranked 124th out of 140 tackles in the NFL. After adding Alex Kappa, who's a loose screen door, now they go and get Stone Forsythe. This is not how you build a winner, you guys. It's not. What that means is the Raiders are going to be playing with a negative game script and a lot of sacks going on with Geno Smith. So when we look at this matchup against the Indianapolis Colts, there are some kind of things to glean out of this. Number one, Brock Bowers' status is up in the air right now. Michael Mayer would be obviously the starting tight end, and at the tight end position, he's got a 1.81 yards per route run, which is pretty good. Brock Bowers is sitting at 2.08, Tyler Warren 2.5. So if you were going to rank the DFS plays, I would go with Warren over Mayer. Jonathan Taylor gets 84% of the early down carries. Early down snaps. Jacoby Myers gets 93%. So those are big plays. Trey Tucker as well. It looks like Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker are on the field all the time. Expected fantasy points, Jonathan Taylor, 20.6. He's the only playable character in DFS this week. But we also have Alec Pierce out. That's bad, but it's good news for Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren. So if you thought that you wanted to give them a chance, those would be the two plays. The thing with Tyler Warren is that he's really, really good against zone coverage, and the Raiders play more zone coverage than anybody in the NFL. They play, I want to say 93% of their snaps are cover 3. So Tyler Warren is a huge play. I think he's going to completely destroy his expected fantasy points this week. So Tyler Warren. The next matchup that I wanted to talk about. Oh, here it is. He's been targeted on 30% of his routes versus zone compared to 10% of his routes versus man. Las Vegas deploys the most zone coverage in the NFL, 93% of the snaps. More specifically, they use cover 3, a single high variant, at the highest clip so far this season, 54%. So Tyler Warren is a smash this week. I'm putting him on in my DFS lineups, and I'm paying on underdog for his whatever his over is. Right now on DraftKings, his price is the tight end 4. So that's pretty good. Next one up is Washington and the Chargers. And this kind of goes against, this is kind of part of why football is stupid. All offseason, all we heard about the Chargers was Greg Roman. They run the ball more than anybody else. They run the ball more than anybody else. They run the ball more than anybody else. Did you know that this season, the Chargers have more passing attempts than any other team in the NFL? So defensively, Washington ranks 9th in man coverage usage and 11th in single high usage. Bottom 5 points in points per drop back allowed in each. So it's going to be big for the whole trio of Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen. I hope Oronde Gadsden can kind of get in there. And Deebo Samuel should have a smash week also. And then finally, Dallas and the New York Jets. Now, I'm calling for Justin Fields to have a top 5 week this week. If you isolate the 2 games that Justin Fields has been fully healthy, he's averaging 28-ish points. If he had played all 4 games, he'd be quarterback 1 in fantasy over Josh Allen. He's going up against a Dallas Cowboys team that gives up points in bunches, yards in bunches. They're the best matchup for wide receivers. And George Pickens is currently sitting on a 1.84 yards per route run, 17 in expected fantasy points. He is a huge play in DFS this week. And so is Garrett Wilson. When I am talking about rest of the season, top 10 wide receivers, Garrett Wilson and George Pickens are both right there. They've been that so far, and they're going to continue. I think this is the first year we see George Pickens finish as a top 12 wide receiver, and we've been waiting for it. The CeeDee Lamb injury just gives him a better opportunity to create a relationship with Dak Prescott, increase his target share, and then by the time CeeDee Lamb comes back, he and Prescott are familiar with each other, and the Cowboys' pass defense is absolutely terrible. So they're going to be in a lot of shootouts, and Dak is a gunslinger. He throws the ball a ton, and it only means good things for George Pickens. If we are looking at from the week that CeeDee Lamb comes back, I would flag plant that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb both would finish in the top 10 in wide receivers from those weeks. Garrett Wilson also right now is third in the NFL in targets. He's the wide receiver 5. Justin Fields supported DJ Moore as a top 10 wide receiver, while Justin Fields was a top 10 quarterback. And you also throw in a little Cole Kmet, who Justin Fields supported as a top 10 tight end. Mason Taylor keeps seeing his usage increase. Rest of the season, from week 6 to week 14, Mason Taylor is a top 10 tight end. Easy peasy. All right. And that brings us to the last bit I wanted to talk about. Why fantasy football is stupid. Kendrick Bourne. That's first. Kendrick Bourne. I can't believe Kendrick Bourne had the game that he did. Even though I expected it, it still just went way better than I could possibly imagine. Jamar Chase. Football is stupid. 1 touchdown. 1 game with double-digit points. Granted, he had 40 points in that game. But still, he's sitting at wide receiver 53 overall. The Cincinnati Bengals are derelict in their duty to get Jamar Chase the ball. And then finally, the injury apocalypse. We've lost Tyreek Hill. We've lost Malik Neighbors. Terry McMillan can't get on the field. Brock Bowers is about to miss time again. Alec Pierce is out. Chuba Hubbard is out. CeeDee Lamb is out. Just the list goes on, and this happened. Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk. We're finally getting Jaden Daniels back. Najee Harris is done for the season. Like, seriously. Injuries happen over and over and over and over and over again. There has to be a solution. We have to figure it out. Training staffs are just terrible. And then down at the bottom, Dart and Wilson and all the QJs and Tungus. Tungus is a tight end to own until George Kittle gets back. Jackson Dart will be the QB1 this week. He's going up against a terrible New Orleans team, and he's going to throw the ball all over the yard. It's going to be great. Garrett Wilson is going to have a huge game for the Jets against the Cowboys. Quentin Johnston is going to have a huge game against Washington. Quinshon Judkins is going to have a huge game against Minnesota. And Jake Tungus is ownable in fantasy. And that's it for me this week. We'll see you next week. This has been Unhinged.